the remainder of that PPA. So essentially, whatever terms we were paying for the power and taking that power and using it for the agency as part of your power supply, the city would then essentially assume it at that exact same rate, and you would be working with that vendor directly, and we'd be just kind of stepped out of the center. So, that's kind of how that program is structured, but I'm gonna go ahead and hand it back off to Kevin here. He's gonna kind of bring it home and give you an overview of, kind of the direction our whole portfolio is going, and answer any questions you have, so thank you.
Thanks, Sean. I've got the cheat sheet here, so, and so to go back to what Sean and Mike were talking about, the IMA Power Supply Program has been going on, this is our 40th year. Our organization has been serving municipalities on a nonprofit basis for 40 years. We anticipate being able to do that for another 40 years moving forward. Over the last 10 years, to give you some perspective on things, if you look at the average power supply cost we've sold to our members since 2014, our pure power supply cost is down 9.3% than what it was in 2014. When you add in the transmission and what I call sub-transmission, they call it wholesale distribution service here, that when you add that back in, the 9.3 turns into a plus 5.6% over 10 years. So that's 0.56% on per year average, less than 1% increase in your power supply cost. We're about to finish this year about 3.5% less than what our budget was, and we're projecting next year conservatively to be about 1.8% above where we are now. So again, if you look at back, we provide this information to our board, public information about what our past 10 years have been, what our projected next 5 years are going to be, and it's kind of flat as a table. It's very much dependent upon the reliability of our power plants and what the transmission costs are going to do, and they have been increasing astronomically over the last 10 years. So as we switch, as we talked about, from these thermal generators, coal-based, gas-based, oil-fired generators that are backup generators, a number of our towns have them. As they see on the bottom of the page, the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act of 2021, or CJA, mandates that we and everybody else in the state needs to retire all the generators that are greater than 20 megawatts, 20,000 kilowatts. So again, you're primarily talking about the big gas plants, the big coal plants, have to be offline by 2045. And we'll be replacing those with renewable resources, primarily wind, solar, battery technology. The battery technology is nowhere near ready for prime time. There's a number of demonstration projects out there. From a national standpoint, we just crossed 20,000 megawatts of batteries in the United States, and the peak is 1 million. 20,000, peak is 1 million. We got a long ways to go there. So as we're doing that, some of the things that we're doing to replace and augment where we're at, the resources that we have, again, they're going to be online for at least another 21 years to 2045. So we're starting that build out of increase. We've got 120 megawatts of wind in our portfolio already. We're starting to increase the amount of solar that's in our portfolio. It's getting more cost effective, but it's not as cheap as everybody might think it is. And so over the next 4 years, we just completed our IMA sustainability plan. Over the next several years, we're going to be looking to add a number of solar installations. Number one, we just completed, a while ago, we completed a 25 megawatt solar, what I call utility scale, 25 megawatts out of a 200 megawatt facility. We've now set a goal to add 100 megawatts of additional utility grade solar to be contracted here within the next 2 years to get it online as soon as we can beyond that. You see the third bullet there is for us to seek to add 5 megawatts of what we call behind the meter solar projects. And when you hear us talk about behind the meter, that means inside your distribution system, inside the wholesale distribution meter. And again, as Sean alluded to, Oglesby, Princeton, and Marshall are those three that we're working on right now. So we're continuing to work on those items. So what are some of the benefits for doing, why we think, you being one of those 7 communities that have already done that, why does this make sense for Oglesby to do this? Well, number one, because we're in the power supply business. I've been in the power supply business for 37 years. Mike's been doing it for 29 years. The general counsel's been doing it for 31 years. And I will also tell you that over the last 10 years, the renewable energy business has dramatically changed as well. It's gotten much more volatile, it's gotten more financially sensitive about it, there are more choices, but then there's more dark roads, let's just say, that can cause problems. And so we've got a lot of experience in dealing with those. Again, having resources that are inside your community create value for your community on a number of fronts. Number one, it's local resources serving local citizens, and we don't have to worry about, you know, did the tie line go down or whatever the case might be. It's producing the power here inside of Oglesby. That's the only place it's gonna go. You have a peak of around 11,000 kilowatts. This is 500 of those 11,000. So we're not at risk of having that push back out and be too much. One of the things that you're starting to see in the general trade press is, in fact, I saw one in the Washington Post this weekend, and the USA Today, and the the New Yorker are starting to talk about part of the problems that we're having of being able to rapidly change from these central station large generators to having 50 here, 100 here. You gotta connect all those things with transmission lines, and it's a very long time for those to get things done. If you know any people that are interested in being long-term transmission planning engineers, they will be gainfully employed for the rest of their life. Just get them that degree and get them that education. And so you see the current delays we're seeing here in this region, that for entities that are applying for large-scale utility, whether it's wind or solar, it's not uncommon for them to see a 4 to 6 year time frame from the time they propose the project to the time it comes online. Not only because it takes time to build the transmission, but the study's gotta get done, permitting's gotta get done. But the actual for solar, the construction and the actual construction activities are very small compared to the transmission and the planning things that have to go into that. So those are some of the things that are behind the scenes. By putting them inside our members' distribution system, it avoids a lot of that chaos. It also maximizes our capabilities, because some of the things that a number of our members have seen, as customers are interested in doing this on their own rooftop solar, etc., we get phone calls from our utility superintendents that say, I've got customers that are getting questions about these things. Can you help? And again, it's a local decision, it's a customer's decision what to do, but we're aware of some of the things some of the questions that those customers should be asking. That's a lot what Sean and Mike does on a regular basis to help people out in those situations. And so with that, the last thing I have here, you can see there, that what you've seen peppered throughout our presentation is a schematic of, I'd say it's an aerial of the second installation we did. If you're familiar at all with what you're looking at there, that's on the south edge of the Rantoul Chanute Air Force Base. And so the one that's located in St. Charles, the one that's located in Altamont, would be very similar size to yours. It's 4 or 5 acres. The site we have in your community is just to the east or behind the fire station. So it's a good location, electrically connected well, has lots of capabilities that will create benefits for your community for the long term. Let me echo some of the things that Sean talked a little bit about, the long-term power supply opportunities by continuing to work with your partners at IMEA on a nonprofit basis. Here, at some point in time during calendar 2024, we will be sending you something about the 1st of March for the contract documents to extend that relationship with IMEA. We're gonna be sending that to all 32 of our communities. You'll be able to make that decision whether you want to make that long-term decision to ensure that you have long-term power supply. The other thing I would allude to is, our contracts end in 2035. At this point in time, all of the power supply resources that we have in our portfolio, all of them are paid for in 2035. So what you're gonna be seeing when we come make that presentation about the power contract, which is a different discussion, is that our rates are projected to drop about 25%, because, as I say to my kids all the time, living in this house would be really cheap if you didn't have to pay the mortgage, right? And if you don't have to pay a mortgage on that, it's the operating cost, which is very cost effective compared to all the other resources. Again, the other thing I'd echo is to why our power supply cost has been flat and down over the last 10 years. It's because our baseload coal-fired power plants, primarily coal-fired power plants, are new, they're efficient, and they run very, very well. We just completed the last year with one of our power plants running 90% full out every single hour of the day, 90% of the hours of the year. Another one of our power plants had a forced outage rate of less than 1%. I've been doing this for 37 years, and I've never seen a big powerhouse like that be able to have a less than one, I mean, that's like less than 20 hours of the year that it was unavailable to run at full load. So that's a compliment to the people that operate our power plants. We don't own any individual power plant ourselves. We're equity partners with a number of the folks involved in it. We're getting into the power supply things. We did want to talk a little bit about the opportunities that this project brings. And so again, you're seeing as you drive up and down 39 here, you're seeing more and more wind turbines. You're seeing more and more solar panels. Believe you me, we are going to see a huge amount of those things over the next 20 years. Part of why we haven't seen those come as rapidly as what people would thought they would be is because of the delays in the transmission. There's been some volatility in the supply of many of these supply chain things, solar panels, wind turbines, that type of thing. So some of that has been supply chain, but it's been primarily delays in the transmission and the transmission plan. So that, happy to entertain any questions anybody's got. We'll go from there.
I noticed that you used, I love your analogy of the mortgage, which is a great example of, you use that a lot for explaining that we're going to own the power generation companies. The one I didn't hear you use, though, is how the goal of the IME is to be very boring.
Well, that's a good,
I think it's important because it talks about why we have such good sustainability and why around us, non-IMEA cities have seen a dramatic fluctuation in their
Yeah.
power costs.
Yeah.
In Oglesby, it's been relatively boring. It's kind of quiet. People see good things out of that. So I was wondering maybe if you wanted to.
So, yeah, I appreciate that, Mayor. What I say to people all the time, I said, you know, my goal in life in our power company is for our operations to be boring, our meetings to be boring, our outcomes to be boring. Because, look, the way I look at this is, when you say to somebody, what did you think about your power bill last month? And they said, I don't know, what's different? I didn't notice anything. In today's day and age, that's great. You think about what your grocery bill was, or your insurance bill was, or, you know, didn't mean to get any insurance, folks, but everything else is going up so high. The goal, and I say to people all the time, look at me, I'm 35. I've been doing this no, I'm kidding. So what we're looking for is something that's measurable, planned, and systematic. And what we've seen over the last several years, for most of those last 40 years, is what we thought was gonna happen, happened, and it's something that you can almost set your watch by. And as I said, our budget meeting is next week. We're about to wrap up minus 3.5% from what we thought we were gonna be, and we're projecting a 1.8% increase. But I think that still could be conservative, so long as our power plants run the way, and one of the reasons is that one of our power plants is scheduled for a long-term, what's called a turbine maintenance outage, which instead of taking 30 days, takes 60 days. Well, that's 30 more days, and we gotta be in that open market to buy that energy, just like everybody else is. So again, as Mike alluded to, we've got everybody that we serve power up for sits on our board. Well, they're public meetings, just like your council meetings are public meetings. We do have people that come in and make statements and ask questions and all those other things. That's fine. We have no problem with that. But again, what we look at is, it's a three-legged stool. Our goals are to be affordable, to be reliable, and to be sustainable. Part of the sustainability plan is to transition to renewable resources, but also sustainability is, when you look at what your power supply cost is, it looks like this. It's just one year after the next, after the next, after the next. It's stuff that you can budget and you can plan on, just like your business owners, just like your homeowners can say, what do you think the electric rates in Oglesby gonna be next year? Probably a heck of a lot like they were last year. Appreciate that. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Okay.
Let's, look, this is time for the presentation for the council. Let's see if the council doesn't have any questions, maybe we can entertain things from the audience. Does the council have any questions over anything you think of? I know there's so much information with all this stuff. It can be a little overwhelming.
I have one question that's near and dear to me. I mean, when I look at it from a firefighter standpoint, can you talk about if there's a first responder hazard involved with this?
Well, that's still an evolving thing. In fact, these are all ground mounted things. So first of all, if you had if the solar project itself caught on fire, it's not your asset, it's not our asset. In that case, we'd work with the vendor that basically would be, if you had a situation that something was on fire, you would not go into that, you'd try to spray it from the outside, but not to get in the middle of it. And at some point in time, if it's a big enough fire, the thing's gonna go anyway. Now what you're doing is you're protecting the other assets that are around there, not the least of which is the fire department. And so, it's a bigger issue when you get onto rooftops. Because, there have been situations, for example, several years ago, there was some rooftops on Walmarts that had fires on the top of those. And so they had to make sure, part of that is training for the fire departments. If you're a firefighter, you can imagine jumping up on top of a roof on a Walmart, never been on that roof before, and it's 80% packed with solar panels, and from the sky, you can see there's a maze to get to where you wanna get to the disconnects. But now you're in a maze and it's on fire. That's something that, so part of that training is important. Last year at our annual conference, we had a gentleman from Chicago IBEW come and talk about the fire hazard issues with that. And what I would say is, it's still an evolving science, and the firefighters are actually leading some of those areas of what's the best thing to do to remedy. What I would tell you right now is, if and when we put that out there, if something catches on fire, spray it from the fence and give us a call.
I don't think we're going to be spraying anything, not if it's electrical.
Well, once it's killed,
Yeah.
once the power's killed.
Yep. Okay. Thank you very much.
You got it.
Any other questions? Would you be opposed to taking a few
No.
questions from I know it's, okay. Is there a question from the audience that they'd like to ask?
Yeah, are they gonna close the Byron nuclear plant or not? And I have another question.
The question I had was, are they gonna close the Byron nuclear plant?
Yeah.
I don't own that plant, Constellation Energy, we're not involved directly in that
Well,
plant.
I know, but what I'm getting at is, there's a lot of rumors, they've been thinking about closing it. And the reason is, they did not secure a lake that's putting cooling towers. Byron is the farthest north in the United States for cooling towers. They have a lot of problems in the wintertime because they're 500 and 500 feet tall. So that water goes up to the top and then drops down, that's how it works. So that's where the problem is. Now, if Byron goes down, and a lot of these nuclear plants, I know because I worked at them, they're getting at the end of their run life. What are you gonna do there? Because they produce mega amounts.
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
the Chicagoland area has about 11,000 megawatts of nuclear energy there.
That's correct.
The,
But it's not only that, it's northern Illinois and, I mean, ComEd's all over the place.
yeah, they primarily serve the ComEd service territory. On certain days of the year, it's a mild April day, there's more nuclear generation there than the region needs, and that it necessarily exports that power. So the direct question you asked me was, are they gonna shut down Byron Nuclear Facility? My guess is, well, of course, at some point in time, yes. I have no idea whether or not the cooling tower issue is serious enough to cause them to do that. My hunch is, there's probably some engineering technology solutions that they can be looking at and are looking at to try to mitigate that, to put that off as far as they possibly can, because again, part of that CEJA bill I alluded to in 2021 mandates that it has to be carbon-free, and that's I think a 1,200 megawatt machine. 1,200 megawatts, you're right, it runs about 93% of the time, pretty much every year when they're not doing a refueling outage. Yeah, but at the same time, you're right, the nuclear machines that are up in this area, they're not brand new. And so they need to be relicensed.
They're all getting near
Okay.
the end of their run life. They can only run for so long. And what's helped them out a lot is they went to nuclear grade fuel and they get longer runs out of the nuclear grade fuel than the regular nuclear grade fuel.
Mr. Merriman, was your question answered, you think, with the Byron plant? Okay, excellent. I thank you so much. It's always great to see you guys. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate all the work that you guys have done, the help that we got from you, especially from our services department when it came to help with GTI, with negotiating those rates and doing other things. I look forward to a much more prosperous relationship for a long time to come. So we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yes.
With the extension.
One last thing I do, totally different from solar power supply, is recognizing Mark and your electric staff for understanding how much you all are interdependent on each other for mutual aid, for help. You know, a little town like yours may not necessarily go to help other people. It's because of you and the people that have been here before. Recognize that if I don't go help my neighbor when he needs help, when I need help, my neighbor might not be here. And let me tell you, I live in Chatham, Illinois. It's a little suburb south of Springfield. Chatham is one of our member communities. June 29th, 2023, a massive derecho, like you guys had a couple of years ago, beat the hell out of Chatham and Springfield. I mean, beat the hell out. And so think about this, 90,000 cubic yards of tree waste alone were removed from that little village of 14,000 people. We had, many of our community citizens were out for 8 days. Now, there was a few areas that came back on in 8 hours, but 8 days without power. So you think about what it's like to be out for, you know, my wife and kids are like, well, the power's out, what are you gonna do about it? Well, first of all, Shane is the guy that's the manager of that system, and Shane's got the fingers the size of hot dogs. I'm not messing with him. I got his cell phone number, but he's busy. And the only way I'm gonna call him is if I can help him get that power back on. So we really appreciate the work your team does, Mark's team does, to take active roles in those things, because what ends up happening is, heaven forbid, one day something happens in Oglesby, Peru, Ladd, whatever the case is. We had a situation in Ladd that same time too. Somebody else came in to help you. You all have shown that you're willing and able to help other people in their time of need, and we appreciate that. With that, entertain any questions? I'll let you go. I know you got a busy meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right. Number 11, send Oglesby Storage LLC variant special use request to Zoning Board of Appeals Plan Commission. I don't have a name on this, but was this one that you were?
No, it's just
Okay.
matter of formality here.
Formality here. Any questions, concerns over that? Obviously, sending this stuff off to the Plan Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Those meetings are already set.
Do we have a date for that I can
Oh, that's good.
announce that then? Was it the
Which one was this? Bill?
21st.
21st, yep. Because
21st?
we have one Wednesday, right?
21st of
Not
March?
this Wednesday.
21st of
Is it next
February.
The 12th and the 15th.
Okay. If I can get a motion to send those, that'd be great.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call,
Let's get
please.
it done.
Baldridge.
Aye.
Udis. McDermott.
Aye.
Stefani.
Aye.
Kern.
Aye. Number 12, COSS rate design study. Baldridge.
Yeah, the last complete study that we had from BHMG was done in 2012. There was a partial study done somewhere around 2020, 2021. BHMG has recommended, they're the engineers, they recommended that we have another study done. It will, the project scope is detailed, design considerations, submittal requirements, project contacts, roles, responsibilities, and clarifications. It gives us a number of things that'll possibly help us lower our rates. It'll also allow us to see what GTI has done to our grid. It'll develop long-term financial projections, a cost of study service, customer rate designs, review of cost adjustment, and they'll also come and give us a presentation at the end. This was recommended by the IMEA and by BHMG, and I asked that we go ahead and pass and have another study done, a complete study.
So a couple things with that, from what I recall. We did have a complete study done in 2021. When I say complete, it did look at all of our rates, our incomes, our costs, our margins, and everything, but the data was lacking. What happened was, so if you recall, in summer of 2021 is when we did get a presentation by BHMG here, and we reduced the small business electric rates by about 15%. The reason we did that is because all the data that we were looking at, GTI was just spinning up with their new usage. And they looked at it and they said, well, you know, for everything that you have here, we can show that this is what you have yet in your margin to spend. However, you have a lot of unknowns that are happening yet. The two biggest unknowns was how much usage the GTI was gonna do, how that was gonna affect all of our loads. And the second thing was, we didn't at the time have meters that had hourly demand rates. We were just getting those installed. So one of the things to look at, so Mr. Baldridge is correct, it was always planned that we needed to get a follow-up to that study to get more complete data for a couple things. One, to see what the full impact of GTI was with all their usage now. And the second thing was, if there was a possibility to have any kind of savings with a new rate program as far as hourly demand usage. For example, if GTI or Wire Mesh were to shift their operations to be using a lot more power at midnight instead of 4 p.m. If there is a demand charge difference between that, there could be a savings between the city and that business, and then we could design a rate around that. None of that was done because that data wasn't available yet. The part that I don't know is, and I think just because I saw this today, and I don't think Becky was able to find the original contract agreement we had with BHMG, when I see that the cost is $31,000 for the study, again, I'm not saying that that is incorrect or anything, that might be, I don't remember what the original study amount was, but I do remember that the additional part of the study was supposed to be at a relatively reduced rate because a lot of that bulk work was done. They just needed to put the data in. And I think if you look at this contract, there's a thing in there that did say something about they could give updates every year for only $1,500. Now granted, that study was done 3 years ago. So is that contract null and void? That part I do not know. But I do think we need to get the study done, but I'd rather review once we find what the original contract stated. So if anything, I'd rather place it on file or kind of table it until we get that information.
I believe the problem with the last one was our biggest company here that pulls the most power wasn't involved. So even if you did have it done 2 years ago, it's pretty much worthless at this point for the fact that the entire thing should go off of GTI. So I feel that we shouldn't drag our feet. I think that $31,600 is probably gonna go up if we do drag our feet. So I truly don't feel that by waiting on us is gonna help us at all. I think that we need a full study. It wasn't a full study last time.
Well, GTI was included in it, but
They were included,
the data
but they
wasn't
didn't have
complete because they more than tripled their usage since, so that was part of the issue. And you know, I'm expecting good data to come out of that secondary piece, because they increased their power factor, their load factor, so it brings everything. That's one of the reasons that, like Mr. Gaden was talking about being boring. We've had a lot of good things happen, and that's why people don't see a crazy cost increase to our power cost adjustment because of that. We have a lot of great things going on, not only with, like you also mentioned with Mark and everybody doing everything. In our own electric grid, we've improved a lot of efficiency things. So there's a lot of good things that I think are gonna come out of that study. I'm just a little concerned about the cost, and again, I only say that because I don't have a way to compare what the last one was, because I don't know what it is.
If we're going to have trust in this BHMG company, which I truly believe we do, Verbal recommended that the complete study be redone due to the changing market. We now have a firm grip on where GTI will be at. Only a portion of the study was done at the time, and a big part was projected, as they didn't have enough data available. She called and recommended that a more complete study would have quite a few larger projects to complete now. So she recommended the study of the additional rate and the studies to fall into what we are trying to do with the new feeds, new substation addition, as well as other things they will report for us.
Any other thoughts?
I suggest we do.
Rich, how timely is this? Like, is this
Get
something,
them started.
is this something that needs to happen right away?
The faster we can figure out what we're using and where the energy's going, I feel that it's gonna be beneficial to the city.
Oh, absolutely. I have no doubt that we need to do the study, that, because we even determined that 3 years ago, that once we needed more data. My concern is, I just saw the contract today. It's the first time I saw it. And we didn't have a lot of time. I think Becky was just started looking for it at like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock or something like that, to see what the old one is. I'd like to see what the old one is and compare it, because I don't know.
If we're trusting them, I can't imagine they're just gonna say, hey, we wanna do a new one for $31,000. Because if we did find it, and we go back, you're gonna lose trust with the company. Like, why would they say, oh, hey, we'll do this one for $31,000, and then we come back and say, hey, wait a second, Jason just found this somewhere, and you guys shouldn't have charged us that. I mean, we're trusting these guys with millions and millions of dollars. I can't believe that they would be dishonest.
No,
and say-
believe me, there's no way I'm saying that VHMG is dishonest. I'm just saying I'd like to compare the original contract. If it said something, maybe it was because it was supposed to be done within a year, and we went too long. I don't know. But in that contract you have there, for example, it says something about updating information every year after for $1,500. And I'd just like to know what was on that last contract. I don't think there's really any harm, because if I remember right, when we approved the last one, it did take like 3-4 months for them to get all the data together to do the study before we did a presentation here. I don't think there's anything really harmful, as far as I know, if we place it on file. Again, we just had our 3-week break between meetings. This one's only 2 weeks, so we could always approve it at the next week. Again, we just saw the contract today.
They sent it on January 24th. I brought it up here well over a week ago. I don't know if you just saw it today. This is their recommendation. I'd like to make a motion to pass the cost rate design study.
Motion on the table to approve it, I assume?
Yeah.
Motion on the table to approve. Can I get a second?
If you feel we need it, I'll second it.
Roll call.
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Baldridge,
Aye.
Udis.
Aye.
McDermott,
Aye.
Stefani,
Aye.
Curran.
Aye. Number 13, approved purchase of $77,960 Malik substation equipment. Aldridge.
The city received quotations for the relay panels purchase, a part of the Malik Road substation upgrades project. A total of 3 quotes were received, have been reviewed for completeness and ability to meet specification requirements. The quote from, let's see here. They recommend awarding the new contract to EP2. They had the most parts, most economical total value. EP2 has a good list of references, completed projects. The company appears to be in good standing and employs certified and trained craftsmen. This is all parts that we're gonna need on the Malik second feed out there. Again, the longer we wait on anything, the prices are skyrocketing. So the lead times are 21 weeks on this one here. We need to get these parts in and we need to get moving on Malik as fast as we can, really. The longer we wait, the more it costs.
Any questions, concerns over any of that?
No, I think this we've already talked about ad nauseum
Yeah.
over several meetings, so if we need it, we need it, and get it
It's gonna be
done.
expensive. The prices are only going up. so
And
we can't back
lead
out.
times and prices are
The thing
going up.
is,
Yep.
Rich, am I wrong, if you're talking $77,960 now, if we drag our feet on it, we're probably well over 80,000, and then that number just keeps climbing?
It's
Am I,
And the time. probably.
well, and the time factor, so if this is, yeah, I'd
Oh,
say,
yeah.
So one of the
Gotta be
things that,
done.
I know I've mentioned this before, one of the reasons we purchased the transformer a while ago is because it had almost a year of lead time. And a lot of these other things that never had lead time, like parts, wires, relays, connectors, they never even, wasn't a thing. And so now, we're finding that even just, these other little pieces are 6 months to a year, it's just crazy. We are so volatile on the supply chain, so it's unfortunate. All right,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of $77,960 for the Malik substation equipment.
I'll second that motion.
roll call, please.
Baldridge,
Aye.
Udis. McDermott,
Aye.
Stefani,
aye.
Curran.
Aye. Number 14, approved contract with IV Valley, Illinois Valley Excavating for waterline marking survey of materials, McDermott.
Okay, guys, we got a contract agreement. They're gonna be placing, provide a quotation to Hydro Excavating to investigate and mark water lines, material and condition. Price of $2,000 per 8-hour day, all right? Will not exceed over $32,000. So basically what we're looking at about $2,000 a day. They're gonna try to get as much done as they can in an 8-hour day, but they will not go past $32,000.
The
Okay.
key for this is that we needed to have a contract on file with them.
Right.
Because we have
We have a
for the
grant.
lead line inventory, but one of the requirements was we had to have an agreement with them that we can apply to the lead line inventory grant.
That is correct. There's also another agreement with $5,000 to test, but that's already been approved and everything.
Again,
Okay.
we have a total of 40,000.
Right.
So,
So that gives us a little leeway in case something would happen, you know. But the grant is 40,000.
Any questions,
All right.
concerns on that?
Any questions?
Anybody like
Okay,
to
I make a motion that we approve the contract with Illinois Valley Excavating for water line marking surveys of material.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Baldridge.
Aye.
Udis. McDermott.
Aye?
Stefani.
Aye.
Kern.
Aye. Number 15, raffle license application, Holy Family School, it's a revision, Starved Rock Runners, and We Are Oglesby. You know, all these organizations do wonderful things inside the city. I don't have any issues with them approving the raffle license. Any questions, concerns over that?
I'd like to make a motion to pass the raffle license applications for Holy Family School, Starved Rock Runners, and We Are Oglesby.
And I'll second that motion.
Roll call, please.
Baldridge.
Aye.
Udis. McDermott.
Aye?
Stefani.
Aye.
Kern.
Aye. Number 16, old business. We have sewer check valve ordinance, McDermott. Did you?
Okay. Well, I believe when we talked number 9 on the ejector pits, we're gonna take that to the planning board. I believe that's all together, guys. That's the reason why we looked into the ejector pumps to begin with. So, we'll table it until we get word from them about the ejection pumps.
And I'd like for them to look at putting it in the land development code for new construction as well.
Absolutely.
They can probably do that at the same time if they're bringing it up, so.
So this will be a text amendment. We'll have to publish a notice of hearing for the planning commission, so I'll need to know from you guys
That's-
exactly what you want them to consider.
Do we want them to discuss it first before we, I mean, we're not in a rush in any of this kind of stuff, so I thought a lot of new information came today, I thought it was really good. Do we send it to them first to
You could
consider?
have them discuss it and not have the ability to take any action on it until you do the hearing for the text amendment at a later date, if that's what you want to do.
Because we really got
That's
two,
probably a good
We have a
idea.
couple of plan commission hearings coming up, and Becky and I could certainly raise it with Ken, and it could be on their agenda to discuss.
We have several issues. We're in the process of revamping our building permits process, so we're going to have several text amendments to make. So probably best to cover them all at once.
Yeah, not a bad idea, Becky.
okay.
That,
We're planning to keep them busy, so.
Yeah.
Because we got two, we're really doing two separate things here, right? We're considering a text amendment to the building code.
Building
And then the second thing is if we're gonna consider modifying that grant
The
process
ordinance.
for people that have had
Right.
problems in the past, for something to change it to this version instead. Is that kind of what we're looking at? Do we want to send both of those to the plan commission then?
I would suggest we should.
I'll
Unless
make
they
a
can-
motion to send it to the planning commission.
Well, I'll second that motion.
Roll call, please.
Baldridge.
Aye.
Udis. McDermott.
Aye?
Stefani.
Aye.
Kern.
Aye. Next item is to fill board vacancies. I appreciate those that put in names. I really appreciate that. We were able to discuss and the names that we came together on that we really think will do a wonderful job. I'd like to appoint to the Plan Commission, or not, sorry, nominate to appoint Plan Commission Don Finley, and for the Police Pension Board, Gary Moyle. Any questions, concerns on that, or can I get a motion?
I'll make a
I'll
motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Whichever.
Baldridge.
Aye.
Udis. McDermott.
Aye?
Stefani.
Aye.
Kern.
Aye. We still have one vacancy out there for the ambulance board. So if there's people there that have like a relevant skill or a background in that, we'd love to get some more, some names to consider. We'd really appreciate you sending something in for that. Next item is announce first public meeting for proposed First Amendment to Oglesby TIF District 6. And the public meeting date for that, the first one is, I believe, March 4th, 2024. We're not setting that right now, it's just an announcement, right? Is that what we need to do?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions, concerns over that for anybody? Okay. I will say that I appreciate Herb Klein taking a look at a lot of stuff. They've looked at the map a little bit, and we've tried to condense it down as minimal as possible, just basically adding in the as much of the downtown district and business district as we can. All right. Number 17, new business. Discuss drafting of migrant drop-off ordinance.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we need an ordinance, Mayor. That's not what I was looking to do. My concern is from a public health perspective, if we get a bus that drops off you know, a bunch of migrants. How are we gonna react and what are we gonna do? Where are we gonna put them? How are we gonna get them someplace that can provide them services? Because we don't have the ability in a town our size to house them for a long-term basis. So just want to discuss as a council, see what you guys all thought.
So I had a talk with one of the county board members, talking a little bit about how EMA emergency services might be having something at county-wide level. So I kind of wanted to wait until they came up with something like that. But believe it or not, I talked to the EMA director today, and he kind of agreed with kind of what you were saying, that he says, even though we might have something for a plan, really, when you have emergency action plans like that, you need to have something developed at the local level. So we talked about it in quite a bit of detail. You know, I informed him how we have some emergency action plans for very specific things, and he actually had something that I thought was really good that I never really thought about. He says, you really need to have something as a general plan in case you need, if you had a mass displacement of people. And when he started relaying that into, like, if we had a tornado that came through and you need to find a place to house 50 people, even for hours or something like that. So he gave me some drafts. I sent it over, I know I just sent it over just a few hours ago. But I do think there's value in finding some kind of plan that we put together in case for any reason that we have a large displacement of people, that we have a way to at least care for them for even a short period of time until we can get a longer term solution.
Can we all agree that that spot would most likely be either City Hall or the fire station?
Yeah, so the conversation that I had with him also, he says you don't have to worry about cots and things like that, but just basically someplace that's out of the elements, you know, either
Right.
cooler, warmer, depending on the time of year, bathrooms, water, chairs, stuff like that. So I'm almost wondering if we could utilize similar to how we have our warming and cooling centers. for
That's
something
what I
like
was
that
wondering as
for-
well.
For a period of time. So I think there's value, obviously, in developing something like that, because if we do have something that happens, we have something that we can go to utilize, and then we can always reach out for those other resources to try to resolve the problem.
Well, I'm all for making an emergency readiness plan. Like you were saying, you know, Oglesby financially, you know, shelter, food, even medical. Now, we were without a hospital for quite some time, so it's getting going again, but we need to prepare something.
Yeah, Mac, we don't have the resources locally
Right,
to.
we don't.
Yeah.
Not
To
anything
help them out
long-term,
long
really.
term, no.
That's
I mean,
what
very,
I'm
very
saying.
short term, in my opinion, from our infrastructure and the size of our city. That being said, I don't think anybody wants to be a bad humanitarian and,
No.
you know,
I
see
don't
them
even
freeze
think
to
that's-
death
The
or
whole
something
city-
like that, you know, I mean, we
The
want to do
city
what we can.
cares, but we
Yeah,
gotta make sure that we can
Yeah.
sustain,
Yeah.
because you can actually help people and make it worse for them too, you know.
Yeah, I was trying to jot down as many notes as, because, I mean, it was really, I mean, you can tell this is somebody that does this for a living. Talked about how resources, for example, Johannesburg busing, shelter at churches, gave me an example of how the Salvation Army was able to help Lawston when they had the fire problem. They had people there with meals to the firefighters within an hour and 15 minutes. NCAT's available, Servant's Heart, all kinds of stuff like that. So I think it would be good to develop at least a local policy to get through these things.
Some kind of
And I wanna
emergency
go with-
plan or something.
Commissioner Udis is saying, because Terry, we look at a lot of things the same way through the eyes of the first responder. This isn't a question of us saying, you know, should a person be able to seek asylum or a new life in the country? That's not the question at all. The question is that when something like this happens, do you have a plan in place to address it? Because at the time, it's too late. It's too late to try and shoot from the hip, so to speak, to put it in layman's terms. If we don't have an incident action plan before the fact, then shame on us as a council for not doing our due diligence. And the way that I would relate it in layman's terms again is, you know, from a firefighter standpoint, the way that we fight fires in a nursing home versus a single-family residence are a complete different tactics and strategy, because your hazards are much different. Your life safety profile is different. So everything that you're talking about, I think, is something that we should put a plan together, because when you get that 911 call from the Love's gas station or the Speedway gas station, it's too late to
Walking
say,
in.
hey, guys, what do you think we should do here?
Well, in all fairness, we do have an emergency action plan for various things. there's not one specifically for this one written yet, though, obviously.
It's
It's-
on us to
it's
take
kinda-
care of
kinda-
that.
It is.
Barry, I'm willing to help you with
Okay,
that.
appreciate it.
Okay.
Same here. Let me know.
Okay.
I think we just write something generic in there,
Yeah,
and we're good to go.
and I sent you a bunch of the ones that the
Yeah, I'll
county
look
had
through all that.
that were general, and so I thought that'd be something that we could, a good starting point.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Any other questions, concerns on that? Okay. Number 18, public comments over any item. Seeing that there are none. Commissioner reports. Commissioner Stefanelli.
All right, I want to start off by thanking Commissioner Baldridge for seeing through the conference room. Rich, I know you put a lot of time and effort into this. And, you know, from accounts and finance, I just want to say thank you for keeping mindful of the cost and not letting things spiral out of control. I think, you know, you did a nice job, and, you know, I really admire the fact that you're willing to roll up your sleeves and see it through and not just, you know, not just talk about it. Mayor, I want to thank you for the nomination process as far as getting these candidates through. I think, you know, we had our concerns about it. I think we talked about the process and how it should be going forward, opening it up. I think you were open-minded to it, so I have to give credit where credit's due. I appreciate that. Finally, we did receive some correspondence from the Internal Revenue Service regarding the penalties and fines that they were going to levy against us. They waived them for the 2020 payroll. I'll have a more comprehensive report on that in the upcoming months, but I want to recognize our treasurer, Paul Danicus, for the time and the effort that he put into it. If it wasn't for him, boy, what a headache and a half. So I just want to say thank you, and that's about $20,000 to the tune that the city of Oglesby is not going to have to pay out in penalties and fines. So I thought that'd be welcome news for anybody. With that, that's all I have. Thank you.
You're going to have to make me do something I never thought I'd have to do, is thank the IRS.
Well, you can thank your treasurer. You can thank your
He
treasurer.
did draft the letter. That is good news. Well, I should thank the IRS as well, I suppose, but Commissioner Yunus.
The only thing I have is our Pierce tender finally showed up. It came from Washington. It's in the station. Last I talked to Ron, he was getting the equipment put on it to get into service, but I don't know whether it's up and running yet. But if it's not, it will be in the near future.
All right.
That's all I
moving
have.
forward. Excellent, thank you. And Commissioner Baldridge.
We got
Well,
you
because he was
going
going to
first.
do something at the end.
First and foremost, I'd like to congratulate our Oglesby, Washington Bulldogs 7th graders. What a heck of a season, and let's hope good luck to them Thursday night. I would also like to acknowledge and thank Matt Klein and Kyle for showcasing our beautiful city in their production of Starved Rock Climbers. Although I didn't know of its debut Friday night, we intend to have a showing or two in Oglesby in the very near future so that locals can also enjoy their efforts. Oglesby Parks and Rec Department, as well as the pool, is looking for part-time help this summer. You can stop in City Hall or go online and apply. You can also sign up for baseball and softball online. The electric department, there's Lewis Avenue and West Walnut Street interchange stoplight. New auto detection system has been installed and completed. The system replaced the old in-pavement loop detectors with a single camera detection system that takes the places of all in the pavement loops. This system can be monitored over a computer with fault messages sent by computer to a cell phone for quicker response. I'd also like to thank Commissioner Stefanelli, the electric department, the clerks, and everyone else for putting up with the renovation. Commissioner Stefanelli rolled up his sleeves as well and spent many hours in there rolling up cords, helping drill through walls and getting that ready. It's really nice to have all that. I'm grateful for everybody that helped out, and I think we have something here to be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner McDermott.
Okay. Well, way to go, Bulldogs. Hope you take it all. I'd like to thank the citizens of Oglesby for their support in the cross-contamination surveys. Also, I want to make a request. If you notice a sign that's faded or where there needs to be a sign, please let me know. Either email me or get a hold of clerks. They'll get a hold of me. good job on the renovations. This looks nice, everybody. I want to really thank the city clerks for taking all the surveys and complying everything together. If we could get it on the board. What we're going to do is we're going to rotate this. The number's going to come up, and then I'll read off the winner of $100. There'll be a total of 3. If you want to go ahead and generate one.
Okay.
Thank you.
675.
What was it again?
675.
675.
Disregard all those other numbers after that decimal point.
Yeah. Just so everybody knows, there was over 900 returned in. That's amazing. 675. Oh, that's way in the back. Yeah. Wow. Oh, there it is. 675. Richard Snell. Richard
Smell.
Snell. Snell. Richard, you got $100. You can come to the clerk's office tomorrow, identify yourself, and congratulations. If
Give
we
us
go-
a day to get those checks written. Come on Wednesday.
Okay. All right.
Next number?
Please on Wednesday. Next number, please. Oh, now we're back.
243.
That's threes. 2, 3. Okay. Last name, Biolchina. I apologize, I don't want to mess that up. First name is Gary?
Gary Bilkey.
Gary Buchanan.
Okay,
Nice Irish.
sure. Okay, same process, come in Wednesday, receive a check for $100. Last and but not least, number
69.
16. Whoa, 69. No, it's okay, they're all numbers. 69 is Jamie Bond. Jamie, you can come in at Wednesday and pick up a check for $100. Like we said, there was over 900. Let me see the bottom here. Yeah.
There were 821
821
residential.
residents. So you can pick your check up on Wednesday. I want to thank the clerks again. That was awesome. You guys are really busy with these. That's basically all I have.
All right.
Have a good night.
Thank you much. Thank you for everybody that filled out those surveys. The real
I
purpose of
really
those surveys is
appreciate
it makes it a little bit easier for us to be able to get a really good, more accurate detail when we do our inventory for the lead lines. I got a couple items to put out here. The first one, I want to talk a little bit about Ice Climbers of Starved Rock. It was a documentary that was put on. It was kind of short notice. I got informed about it. It was for Saturday night. A couple of people I wanted to recognize, Kyle Peterson and Matthew Klein. They kind of put this kind of thing together on their own. I'm sure everybody kind of remembers the name Matthew Klein. He's the one that's done a lot of our aerial photography for the wonderful stuff that we have for our Fun Fest. It looks beautiful. This documentary, when you think about people like you might know doing a documentary, you're thinking like a hand cam or something like that. This production value of this thing was absolutely stellar. It really was something special. Not only just the video of what Starved Rock looks like with the snow covered and everything like that from a great view, but even the footage as they're climbing, the audio with it, you're hearing the water flowing, the ice chipping. It really was something fantastic. The funny thing about it is, so the other thing I wanted to mention is one of the 3 featured ice climbers in there is Oglesby's very own Wes Black. If you're not familiar with that name, you probably remember he's the individual that is the one that designed our regulation size disc golf course in the city. I don't know him well, but the little bit that I've interacted with him, he's got a very, he's very heartwarming, he's very adventurous, he's very humble, he's a great human being. And what I liked about this, the whole documentary, again, it's a short documentary, but when they do the interviews with the different people throughout, as they're doing the ice climbing and talking like that, you can see that personality even in the documentary. This thing is really fantastic. There isn't a lot of details yet after it premiered about where it's going to be available yet. So I know a lot of people that went were just local people around the area. Where I think the real value in this documentary is, I mean, this is a professionally done documentary. I can see this being a great tool for economic development, for bringing people into our area to see things. So that's fantastic. Second thing I want to talk about, you're probably wondering why I'm saying this one second, but it ties in with my next item, is 7th grade Oglesby Washington Bulldogs. They're going for a state championship on Thursday night. You know, when I heard about this, I thought that was great, and I heard that they're undefeated, and I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. They have a good season. And my sons had to go, no, I don't think you understand, Dad. They're undefeated for 3 years in a row. And I go, 3 years in a row? They are so good that they had to wait until a state championship became available before they have an opportunity to win the thing. So, I mean, we're wishing them the best of luck. We're rooting for them. We're behind them. I will tell you, I did have a conversation with their principal, and one of the things that I'd never even really thought about much was every time somebody wins a big championship or something like that, we usually do a parade through the town. Well, the event is 7:30 p.m. on Thursday night. And it's 2 hours away. So they're, at best, whether they come in first or second, they're likely to be back home by 11 o'clock at night. And of course, it's a school night for the kids. So what they're looking to do, and the details I think are going to come out on this later, but they're looking on Friday that we'll do the parade through town from Lincoln to Washington with some details to follow. So if you have the opportunity, let's see if we can paint the town blue and gold and support them on their route. More information on that to follow. That being said, even though these kids are amazing, there's a lot of people that go into support to help these kids out, whether it's the parents or the coaches. And that leads into the next thing I want to talk about. In the next newsletter, we're going to have an article in there talking about volunteerism and what it does for our community. Hopefully we're in, you know, the groundhog said spring's supposed to come early this year. I hope that's the case. So I'm hoping we're going to have a lot of opportunities coming up soon. A lot of our organizations that we have are dwindling in numbers, and to really make what Oglesby is fantastic for intelligent and good people is people involved in their community. And there is lots of voluntary opportunities available, whether it's volunteering for a city function that we have for Fun Fest. It can be as simple as a 2-hour time slot to help out. If you want to be a little bit more involved, there's plenty of organizations in the city. There is We Are Oglesby, there is the Elks, the American Legion, the Knights of Columbus, Dickinson House Foundation. I realize I probably shouldn't just start naming them because I'm sure I'm going to forget a couple of them. There's plenty of organizations that meet monthly and they do a lot of great things for the city. The other thing that becomes a little more complicated if you want to put time into it is baseball board and softball board in Oglesby. They always need help with that, and coaches. Coaches, I understand it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, but we have a lot of great things that happen out of that. So I'd ask that you consider that as we get into the spring months here. They're going to be looking for people to do a lot of the different events, so let's help keep Oglesby great. That is all I have. Next item is executive session which is 5 ILCS 120/2C1, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees. Actually, Pat, there was another one that we talked about. For the one to talk about minutes. Should we even bother with that tonight then? Because, I mean, if we're not.
Yeah, I think maybe we should try to hash that out, Jason.
Okay.
Between now and the next meeting.
All right, let's see since we tabled that one, we'll just do that then. Can I get a motion to go into executive session?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call, please.
Baldridge.
Aye.
Udis.
Aye.
McDermott.
Aye.
Stefani.
Aye.
Kern.
Aye. And there are no proposed action items after we come back from executive session. Thank you very much, everybody.
jazz music.
Yeah.
Let them have some soothing